all communities. Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern day issues. The Gray Area, in its naming significance, solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you. Hello, viewers. We are live right now. This is the Gray Area Media, and we are going to put Patrick out because he's been tripping the whole time.
I mean, do you hear this? How you gonna start the show off like that? That's
Man, because you've been acting up since we had the conference call this morning.
goodness gracious.
It's all right. It's all
This
right. We go
morning,
straight-
you mean
we
this
go- this
See
evening?
that? Yeah, this evening. Look,
All right,
you way off.
I'm busted. Anyways, this is your boy Ray E.
This is your boy P. Wills. What's happening?
And this is Ebony. And I did want to give a special shout out because I promised my student that I would do this.
Okay.
To Tyler Jones. He asked me, is this recorded? So he could actually have me play it back tomorrow in class to prove that I gave him a shout out. And he said he was the best wrestler. And I gave him the look. I said, now, you got some medals, awards, or whatever. He said, well, just ask a couple coaches around the district. They'll tell you I'm the best. So, Tyler, just want to give you a shout out.
Shout out to Tyler.
Shout out to Tyler. Tyler, we appreciate you. We appreciate the whole teacher crew at Creston as elementary or middle school. Middle school. Shout out to them and the teachers for doing a phenomenal job out there. We have some very special guests, y'all. You know, we don't, you know, if you make it to the Gray Area, you somebody. That's to be somebody. And,
We appreciate y'all for coming.
I just want to introduce my lovely mother, Patrice Hardy.
Yes.
What's up, Ma?
Hey.
This is my mother. This is my birth mother. All the whippings, all the discipline, all the work ethic, right there.
Yeah.
It is in a
right.
nutshell. My man Fred Evans, how you doing?
Doing good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You have a phenomenal story. We're gonna go into that.
Yes.
You've done some great things and have gotten some awards recently for those things.
Right.
So
right,
and we'll
right.
talk about those real soon.
Okay.
Cindy Hart,
What's happening? How you doing?
All right.
man,
Happy to be here. More
Great,
ways
great,
than
great.
one.
y'all don't know how resilient Cindy is. Cindy has a great story as well. You know, the admiration, determination. The book speaks for itself. It's called Determination. And you guys will hear more about that, and as well as Fred Evans' book, Surviving Cancer. You know, as you guys know, our show today revolves around cancer awareness. It's one of the most underlooked things in the world, because you really don't think about it until it hits you or someone in your family. And we have to start thinking forward about cancer. It's a serious thing, and you don't know how serious it is until you go to the hospital and you have to figure out what's going on. So we're going to talk about that today. But first, we want to start with your stories and how cancer affected you. What happened? What was the first thing you said? Something's wrong, and you know, I got to go to the doctor, and you know, just
Yeah, the
walk us
symptoms.
through that, the symptoms, and give us a piece of your story, Mom.
Okay. Well, I am a cancer survivor since 1992. I'm a colon cancer survivor
I was one of those people who worked a lot, and my children know that I worked all the time. And so I was just thinking I was just really tired from working. I couldn't figure out anything else that was going on. And I finally went to the ER, and they said, well, you got some kind of infection, so we'll give you an antibiotic. And they sent me back home. I was sent back home 2 times, and on the 3rd time, my parents was with me. I was an adult, but my parents was in there stomping around saying, our daughter is not leaving until she sees somebody else. And so there was a young internist that was there, and there was a student nurse that was there, and there was a student medical person that was there, and they were the one that noticed that I had no bowel sounds. Now, to not have bowel sounds mean that you're not living.
Wow.
They said They said we don't hear anything, and they went flying out, and they come back with the chief medical officer, and he's like, "Oh, we got to get her in here and get her up to surgery," you know. So here I was, 32 years old, with no family history, with people telling me that I may not live. And at that time, I had 5 young children, and I remember a doctor coming in and saying to me, he says, "If you don't start praying and act like you want to live, you ain't gonna make it."
Wow.
So, you know, here I am thinking, you know, what am I going to do? And my parents was like, you can't die. You got 5 children. They can't handle you not being here. You know, you got to fight. But I was so ill and so weak and so sick, I didn't even have time to know what was going on. So I got done. I got my treatments done, my chemo and all of that. I did 6 months of that. I had a temporary colostomy bag. I'm at 32 years old. That's really young to have a colostomy bag. They did that for 6 weeks just to make sure that the cancer wouldn't come back. So they went, because it was an aggressive sort of cancer with me not having any symptoms and any family history at that time. They didn't know what to do, because when they opened it up, they said my colon just completely ruptured open. So it just tore loose. You know, they put a little split, and he said it just tore open. So, so I just thank God for being here. But, but the fact that we are not getting, in any community, anybody over the age of 40 that have a family history need to be checked. But now you just need to go just because. So all of my children now have to get colonoscopies. They're like,
Yep.
because of me. But this is the thing, the one thing that I think about the most about this is 1 year to the date, my mom was diagnosed with it. And then another sister and another family member. And it's just like, because I had it, I really brought out the family history. We had a great aunt that had it as well, and nobody knew what it was. She just had stomach issues, and so since she had stuff back then in the 60s and 70s, stomach issues was just you just had a bad belly, and they never looked into it. So I was the
Stomach
actual
issues
person.
as far as what? I'm sorry.
Stomach issues as far as a swelling in her stomach, not being able to go to the restroom appropriately, not being able to eat it, keep anything down, even water. She couldn't drink, I couldn't drink water or anything, and I couldn't even get the medications down that they thought was for an infection. I couldn't even get that down either, so everything was coming up. Nothing was coming out the other end, but everything was coming up the top, so I had that block that was sitting in between there. Wow. So colon resection was done. I don't have much colon left, so they said if it ever came back again, I would definitely have to have a colostomy bag. I will not have that opportunity to have the resection done again, because it really took out a lot of my colon.
Wow. Did they ever tell you what caused it?
It's hereditary. It's a family gene, and within our family, whether you eat well or not, it doesn't matter. If it's a family gene, it's a family gene. It's just something that's hereditary, and you really can't do anything about it. But get the colonoscopies to make sure you keep the polyps down and keep them cut out and keep them cleansed. But somebody is going to, somebody's going to get it. And my youngest daughter just had a scare in California where she was in the hospital recently, and they checked her out, and she turned out really good. But now they're telling her you got to watch it now, because you're having issues with your stomach, so that's not good. That's how it started with me. It was probably a year to that date that I actually
She's
got diagnosed.
about the same age.
Yeah, she was 30.
Wow.
She was the same age I was. She was 32. So she was the exact same age I was. So that was really scary. So they was calling me to hospital. I was like, hey, you had this cancer. How old were you? And I was telling the doctor. He was like, oh, my goodness, we need to get her a colonoscopy done right away. So now they're saying they need to watch her. Because she didn't have everything there, but some things could change and it could flip over. So you just got to keep her.
Tell you what, and being and seeing my mom go through that whole thing as a kid was pretty traumatic because one, what is cancer? What is this thing that's supposed to be taking my mom away from me? You know, as a kid, you go through a lot of different things as well. So,
Emotions, yeah.
you know, I can only imagine, you know, what other children and other families go through in response to that. So, we just have to be, you know, more proactive
Yes.
and making sure that we
Yes.
take care of ourselves.
I mean, do you think that, I'm sorry, do you think that it's wise for people to wait until they're 40 or 50 to get their colon checked?
What my children, they need to get in their 30s because I was so early.
Okay.
So, you know, they need to get theirs done right away. You know, in other families, and actually they said when I had it, they said it was a disease for males. There was more males being diagnosed with colon cancer at that time in the 90s than it was females. They was very surprised that I had it and
That's
didn't have a family
interesting.
history.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fred,
Yeah.
please tell us your story and, you know, a little bit about what was going on with you in regards to cancer.
Right, right. So, I was used to getting a physical exam probably ever since I was, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. My father was a doctor,
Okay.
and so that explains that.
Yeah.
I got into a wellness program. I worked for Eli Lilly and Company at the time,
Okay.
and they had a wellness program for at that time for department heads and managers and the like. And they said, okay, you have to have a colorectal exam, which, you know, if you're a guy, this is something doesn't seem like you really want to have done.
Right.
But if you don't do it, I mean, it could lead to your early demise.
Right.
Wow.
So, and then also to get a PSA blood test. And that's another tool that a oncologist has or a urologist has in helping to determine if you have prostate cancer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I had no symptoms. I was going to the doctor every year.
Yeah.
And so on the occasion of, let's see, this would be 2003, December 2003, my family doctor said, you need to go see a urologist because your PSA doubled from the previous year.
Wow.
What
Now-
is a PSA, sir?
PSA is, it's tested, it's part of your blood test.
Okay.
And it tests the. If you can explain it a little bit better, the actual title.
Oh, wow. I
can
haven't
look
looked it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll look it
Okay.
up real quick.
Yeah, but it is a test, and anything below 4.0 is considered to be okay.
Okay.
You start getting above 4, then you know it's kind of shaky as to whether you really have cancer. And so mine went from like 3.6 to 6.5 in 1 year.
Wow.
So my doctor said that the absolute number didn't surprise him as much or scare him as much as it doubled. That's what worried him.
Right.
So I went to see an oncologist, and he did a biopsy of my prostate, and they deadened the area, and you're laying on a table on your side, and so the doctor and his assistant were standing behind me. Obviously, where they're going to do their work, right?
Right.
So all of a sudden, these two guys are talking about so-and-so who's a nurse in the office just had a baby. And they're talking and they're talking. And I said, hey, wait a minute. You know, I'm here on the table, guys. So,
Wow.
you know,
Yeah. Right.
it was just my attempt to have a little levity.
Right.
Because it's a scary proposition. You know?
Absolutely.
So as I tell people, there is not one single funny thing about cancer.
Right.
You know, we say that cancer sucks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as you lead your life, you have to look for positive things, maybe even humorous things,
Right.
because that's actually what kind of can help you get through
Sure.
along this journey. So I had this biopsy on New Year's Eve 2003.
Wow.
So when we got home, my wife drove me because you're given a sedative, and so you're not quite, you shouldn't be driving a car.
Right.
And she wouldn't have let me go by myself anyway. I mean, she's like a hawk when
Yeah.
it comes to my health. Okay.
Well, there,
Awesome.
there's a love story there.
Yeah, yeah, there is. And so, I mean, I refer to her as my bride because that's what we are.
Shout out
that's
to
what she
Linda.
is. Yeah.
See you over there, Linda.
Right. So, so that New Year's Eve, we didn't go out and party. I sat on a pillow, and so I said to the doctor, well, we were planning to go to Florida for the winter, and I said, should we, stay? What should we do? He said, no. I mean, this could come back negative. So just go on to Florida, enjoy yourself. We'll give you a call when the test results come back. Now, I was getting a little worried because it was taking quite a while for the test results to come back. But, there's a holiday in there.
Sure.
Okay.
He called me one evening, and he told me, well, I got bad news. You do have prostate cancer. And it was like, wow.
Right.
My brain is just,
Right.
can't hardly even comprehend anything else he said.
Right.
So he said, now, I want you to go on the internet, and I want you to look up this, and this. And then we'll talk in a couple days. I said, okay. So we had a good friend of ours who had come to visit us for a week. Excuse me, and I was outside talking to the doctor. So I came back in. They knew nothing of what my doctor and I were talking about. Matter of fact, they didn't even know I was talking to the doctor.
Right.
And so, I sat there eating dinner, and I couldn't tell you what we talked about because I don't think I hardly said 2 words through dinner.
Right.
So after I ate, I excused myself. I said I had to go to the bathroom.
Sure.
So I went into the bedroom, closed the door, sat on the side of the bed, and I cried like a baby. Now, for guys out there, crying over something like this, it has nothing to do with your manhood.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Sure.
It's just another expression of what's inside of you.
Yeah.
And the tears help get that out of you.
Sure.
So my wife, so I go back out to watch TV. Don't ask me what was on TV. And after we got done watching television, she came. We went into the bedroom, and that's when I told her that it was bad news, and she was heart-struck, scared,
Sure.
and so on and so forth, as you might
Yeah.
imagine. So anyway, I had to go over what my course of therapy was. I had surgery, and it was robotic surgery, and so I don't have any stitches.
Wow.
There were like 5 very small holes, only one of which required a bandage.
Mm.
I mean, this is
That's super.
That's
Yeah.
new tech.
yeah. Well, this was 2004, okay, and it had not been around that long at that time. It's common now. Well, the difference between that type of surgery and what they used to do, there was no blood transfusion that was required. I was out of the hospital in 2 days. I would have been out of the hospital in 1 day, but I had a fever, and they don't want to let you out of the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if You got a fever.
Right.
Can make it
And-
worse.
Yeah, because they don't know, So the next, so I'm laying in the recovery. It's like the second tier recovery, just before they send you to
Sure.
your room. And my urologist comes in. He said, "Fred, how you doing?" I said, "Doc, I feel like I just went 15 rounds with Muhammad Ali, and he beat the crap out of me." Because that's, just
Right.
all in here was
Right.
hurting. So, okay, so we recovered from that, And about 5 months later, because they wanted my body to heal, 5 months later, I had chemotherapy. 21, I had 6 treatments spaced 21 days apart.
Right. So this first treatment was, what was that for? Like the robotic?
chemotherapy?
No, the robotics. Thing.
Okay, that was to remove, I'm sorry, that was to remove the gland itself.
Oh, okay.
To
Okay.
get that cancer out of your body.
Right. So the
Right.
next stage is chemo, which.
Right.
Yeah.
Should kill.
Prevents it from coming back.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would not exactly put it that way.
Okay.
It gives you a good chance that it won't come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because mine came back
Okay.
after about 13 years.
Wow.
So, things were going good for about 13 years.
Right.
So then we did the chemotherapy, and then we did radiation. So that was 5 days a week, and a grand total of about 34, 35 different days.
Wow.
Okay. Then the last thing was hormone therapy, which lasted for 2 years. And what that would be is an injection of a drug called Lupron.
Okay.
And Lupron is actually used for men and women because it tricks the pituitary gland.
Yeah.
Okay. It tricks the pituitary gland in men to not produce testosterone because testosterone is like food for cancer cells.
Wow.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you ever see a commercial that talks about, men, are you getting slow? You don't have as much energy. Take this product. It's got testosterone in it. Run away from it
Wow.
because you don't know if you got the beginnings of prostate cancer.
Right.
Right.
That could
Well, you
feel-
can't tell.
Right.
Okay. But if you take that drug, you could be leading yourself down a road that you just don't want to have to go down.
Wow.
It's
Right.
basically adding fuel to the fire.
Exactly right.
Okay.
Exactly right.
Wow.
So that was my course of treatment. So right after, before they released me from the hospital from the surgery, the doctor said, "Now, I want you to walk. When you get home, I want you to walk." Well, but it was in February, so it's too cold outside to be walking outside.
Right.
And I had a catheter in me, which had to be there for about a week. So we live in a high-rise condo, so I could walk down the hallway,
Sure.
outside of our unit.
Sure.
And so, I'm kind of a, I don't know, technical kind
Sure.
of guy, analytical.
Sure.
Maybe that's a better word
Yeah.
for it. And so, if he says, I want you to walk, I figure at some point he's going to want to know how far I walked. Right?
Right.
Okay. So how am I going to figure that out? I've got an odometer that's on my bicycle, right? And it's in the closet, and here I am in my robe, pajamas, and this catheter bag, and heading towards the front door. And my wife said, "Are you crazy? Okay, where do you think you're going with that?" So I explained to her. So I would walk down the hall and walk back, and I could then figure, okay, I could tell the doctor, how far I walked.
Right.
X number of times would equal a mile. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, so that's pretty much my cancer story, except that it has come back.
Wow.
And a year ago, this past August, I went through chemotherapy again,
Wow.
and things looked pretty decent until about August of this year, and I started having severe pain in my hip area, just about where your femur
Sure.
goes into your hip socket,
Sure.
right in that area. And I'm talking about pain level like 10.
Wow.
I mean, enough to just
Right.
make you cry and
Right.
scream and holler, kind
Right.
of pain. So, so now what we're on is another form of therapy. Started out with radiation,
Sure.
and immediately it reduced the pain. And then we're doing what's called radium-223.
Okay.
Now that's a drug that is like a smart drug, and so it's infused into one of my veins, and it only takes about 60 seconds for the doctor to, infuse it, and it goes in, and the body thinks it's calcium, so you go, okay, it's calcium, so we're going to send you to where you got a problem with calcium. So what I actually have is metastatic prostate cancer of the bone. That's technically what I've got.
Right.
Because it identifies where it came from,
Right.
and then where it ended up.
Right.
So that is kind of what we're dealing with right now.
Okay.
So that's my cancer journey today.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Wow.
And what do you? And I'm sure you've done research and you've had people tell you about this. What do they think that stems from?
Oh wow. Well, first of all,
He's too
It's-
sexy, that's it.
why, thank you. So, African American men have the highest incidence of prostate cancer in the world.
Wow.
White American men are number 2.
Right.
Okay. My son is 50% more likely to get prostate cancer than somebody else,
Right.
because of the,
Sure.
he's my son.
Genetics.
Right.
And so, we obviously talked with him about it, and he's been getting the PSA and all of that for several years now.
Sure.
I asked my doctor the same question. We kind of know what lung cancer might come from, smoking cigarettes.
Right.
There may be other causes, but that's like
Sure.
pretty high on the list.
Sure.
My doctor says we don't exactly know, but it could be something in the environment. Whether it's airborne, whether it's in our food, in the food supply,
Right.
in whatever is given to animals, if you eat meat,
Right.
or chicken.
Right.
But they don't know for sure,
Right.
what actually causes it. So,
Wow. Well, we've had some shows early on where we spoke on eating healthy and some of the things that might fuel carcinogens out of food, and I was just shocked at some of the stuff like chips and fries, depending on how
Skittles,
well it's cooked,
candy,
and
yeah.
there's so many things. So I'm
vegetables.
hoping that we can.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah,
vegetables
yeah,
you'll
some
keep.
vegetables.
Yes.
So I'm hoping that we can go over some of those things tonight, to keep people more aware of these things. Because
Right.
I was looking at some of those statistics, and you're right. African American males are pretty high up on the list. African Americans in general are pretty high up on the list, and that number's dropped significantly.
Right.
So it's black, white in certain categories, and white, black in other categories. But we're predominantly here in America, so that told me like maybe it is something we're eating. It's because Asians, Hispanics, they're all low on the list. Now,
Right.
granted,
Yeah,
they
they
do
are.
get it, but they're extremely low. Like our numbers double, per year of people who get cancer. I was looking at some statistics from 2009 to 2014. And that was really surprising to me, and it just told me that what are we doing in America that's causing us to have cancer, and it's got to be something that's tied into the food or our behaviors or whatever's going on. So
I'll tell you one thing about cancer and African Americans versus white Americans. And I'm
Sure,
thinking
sure.
of men, okay?
sure,
If you have to have cancer, prostate cancer is probably the one you'd want to pick. If you have to go down a list and you're going to pick one of these,
Sure.
you're going to have cancer, you got to pick one.
sure,
You want to pick prostate cancer that you catch early.
right,
Okay,
Right.
because the 5-year survival rate for American men as a whole is somewhere around 96 to 98%.
wow,
Okay, I mean that's good.
yeah,
But if you single out Black Americans, it's not so good. It's somewhere around 60%.
wow,
Okay, so what could be the difference? Well, maybe we're scared away from the digital rectal exam.
sure,
Maybe
Don't go to the hospital as often.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
some people, still remember the Tuskegee
Experiment.
experiment.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And not so sure they want to get involved with the medical profession.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And then there's health care.
Right.
Before the Affordable Care Act, there were a lot more black Americans and everybody else that did not have medical insurance.
Sure.
So we've kind of helped that part along.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
Very
It's
good.
kind of quite scary considering some of the changes that might happen to healthcare. So, I mean, this has generally helped. Like even when mom, back the expense, if you were, some insurance
yeah.
companies won't help you at all.
Right.
Depending on when you had it or when they consider you having it. So the Affordable Care Act helped considerably
Yeah.
with that.
one final thing I'll say on that.
Sure.
As of the end of October, we get a report from our insurance carrier. Now, I'm old enough to be on Medicare, but we have a supplemental
Sure.
account because Medicare just doesn't cover everything.
Yeah.
Sure.
So as of the end of October this year only, they would have paid like $145,000
Wow.
Wow.
with 2 months to go.
Wow.
Yeah, and my wife and I, we have not had to pay a penny.
And that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah.
As should be. We should be like Canada.
Blessing.
You're right. You're right.
Cindy, let's talk about your story because wow. I read your bio like 3 times. I did because I was just impressed and it's just phenomenal. What you've been. I'll let you tell the story, but I was just really intrigued by that and the fact that you're just here. No one would ever know
No.
that you've been through what you've been through. So go ahead,
Oh, well,
let them know.
well, I just want to jump in real quick for
Sure,
a second
sure.
on what Fred was saying. And, and you were asking, what is cancer? Well,
Yeah.
the thing is, as we sit here, we're probably all throwing out potential cancer
Yeah.
right now. It's
Right.
rolling around. And,
Sure.
But we've got such a good immune system that, our immune system is geared up enough to come in like, nope, you're not
Right,
going anywhere.
right.
And it's going to stop it. It's going
Sure.
to stop it.
Yeah.
And then, so maybe part of that is the stress that we go through. And, if we're going through a particular stress, we're stressed, our body's stressed. And, the way our brains work, it doesn't know stress from the threat from being eaten by a tiger from a job deadline.
Right.
So
right.
it can't tell the difference. Stress is stress, whether it's real or perceived.
Right.
And so, that if you're under a lot of stress, it suppresses your immune system.
Yes.
It can't
Yeah.
fight those cells.
Wow.
So that's why, exercise is so important. Good diet is so important.
Sure.
Anything you can do to prevent it and help increase your immunity.
Right.
Just laughing.
Right.
Laughing helps boost your immune system. So people who deal with depression, people who have like very stressful jobs.
Sure.
And so let's look at another thing is like we were talking about the disparity between the Caucasians and the African Americans.
Sure.
Are you dealing on a higher stress level?
Right.
You know,
right.
so that's just, something else to think
Absolutely.
about. So, whatever we can do to try to reduce that stress, that's
Right.
another thing we need to think about,
Right, right. That makes me think about, and you saying that, in regards to African American males and
Socially. dealing with
social,
stuff.
yeah, because I feel like there's a post-traumatic stress that African American men go through in regards to just social life, and trying to weed the world. But in regards to that, like, stress, depression, all these different things, and the numbers show that it dropped drastically. So a combination of, healthcare and people finding ways to help themselves may have contributed to
Proper
that.
diet.
Yeah, and proper dieting. So America's doing something right, but it's still the numbers are still way too high.
And
Still way
even-
too high.
Even on that diet, I've heard so many people, talk about healthy eaters, vegans, vegetarians that still get cancer.
Oh, yeah.
Or
So they
people
have
that
heart attacks and
that
stuff,
have
yeah.
that do holistic approaches and still get cancer. But like I try to explain that nobody's immune from cancer.
No.
But like you said, what helps to fight it is your immune system and the way you eat. So
And things-
I may get cancer as a vegetarian or a vegan or just eating healthy, period, avoiding testosterone and estrogen, but it increases my ability to fight it
Right.
versus if I'm still eating, a diet that's not proper.
Absolutely. Cindy.
All right. Well, so my name is Cindy Hart, and so I'm a registered nurse. I work at Regan Street Institute. I'm a clinical informatics specialist. And I'm a wife and a mother. And I've been a nationally ranked cyclist and speed skater. So he said you can't tell by looking at me.
Yeah, you would never know.
I'm just an old middle-aged person now. But once upon a time, so in 2004, Fred and I share that year. Evidently, we were going through chemo at the same time.
Wow.
So in 2004, I was a nationally ranked speed skater and bike racer. And I was the healthiest person I knew. I had absolutely no family history of cancer of any kind. And so one day I came home from work, and my 9-year-old daughter was playing on the floor, and I sat down and I had an itch, and I reached over to scratch it, and I was like, well, I felt not one, but 2 lumps in my breast, and I was like, wow, that's weird. I've never felt that before. And just to give you a little back history, so I was in bra sizes. Let's just say I was a 34A minus. So if there was something there, I'd feel it.
Right.
And so I just put it off. I said, this is, and I'm a nurse.
Right.
But I feel that I'm like, well, I have no history. This came out of nowhere. I'm just going to wait for my mother and ask her. So my mother lives in Ohio, and she came over to visit, and she's also a nurse. And I said, okay, Mom, I said, do you have a history of like cysts or fibroids? And she goes, yeah, why are you asking? And her mom radar went on.
Right.
And I said, well, I found a lump. And she goes, well, I want to do breast exam. I'm like, okay, so just to let you know, my mom's like an employee health nurse, so she does this like for a living. And so she did a breast exam, professionally. And at the end of it, she goes, you're probably right. It's probably nothing, but you need a mammogram. And I said, well, so all I heard in my head was, it's probably a lump, a cyst. So I was like, I'm not getting a mammogram. I'm only 40. And I was like, I'm not doing it. And but my mom knew. She just didn't want to tell me. And so for a month, my mom starts calling me. And she's like, did you get a mammogram yet? No. Did you get a mammogram? She starts calling me at work. And so I was working in the clinic with the doctors, and she's like calling me. She goes, I'm going to call you every 5 minutes until you get a mammogram.
Wow.
And so I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So I turned to the doctor that I was working with, and I said, I'm sorry to bother you, but can you write me a referral to get a mammogram? And she goes, no, but I have to do mammogram. I have to do a breast exam first. I'm like, great. First, my mom feels me up, and now a coworker. Short story. I mean, to shorten the story, I went and got the mammogram. They sent me for a fine needle biopsy, and the results came back. And one of my friends, who's a physician, calls and leaves a message. And so I call her back because I coach her kids. So I coach speed skating and bike racing. And so she goes, I don't normally I don't usually call my patients to tell them the results. So in my mind, I'm still going, I'm going to be so mad at my mom for making me go through all this. She goes, you've got ductal carcinoma, and I've scheduled you with the finest surgeon and breast oncology in town.
Wow.
And so basically, there's this like shock, kind of like Fred was talking about. There's this shock, and I'm just like numb. And the next day, I'm walking into work, and I'm like chanting to myself, I've got cancer. I've got cancer. Trying to convince myself.
Right.
And everybody I'd run into, and they go, "Hi, how are you?" And I'm like, "Hi." And in my head, I'm going, "I've got cancer."
Right.
And it wasn't until the next day that Ken, my husband, and I were preparing for a party at our house. All of a sudden, it hit me, and it was like coming up into my chest. And all of a sudden, I felt like I had this monster, and I had to get it out.
Right.
And I said, "I've got to go for a bike ride." And he's like, "You can't. We don't have time." I said, "You don't understand. I have to go for a bike ride."
Right.
And so I ran and I jumped on my bike and I yelled and I screamed and I stomped, and it was like I wanted to get the cancer out and I wanted to kill it, and I was angry.
Right.
I was mad. I was mad at God for letting this happen to me, and
Sure.
this was not part of my plan.
Right.
And I had to get it out. And I came back. I turned around and I got to where Ken was. He was pacing back and forth on the floor. And I said, let's get through this. I said, lots of people have cancer. Let's get through this. And
Right.
so I went through a summer of chemotherapy. So when you go in to meet your doctor, I highly recommend everybody take your phone with you. If you don't have a family, take a family member, a significant other, somebody who can care for you.
Sure.
You need an advocate to go in with you, because I guarantee you're not going to hear anything they say.
No.
So I'm a nurse. I'm a trained healthcare provider. And when they start talking and they say, "This is what you've got cancer, you're going to have chemotherapy, you're going to have a mastectomy, you're going to lose your hair."
Right.
All of a sudden, I mean, it's like on TV where you can see it goes, and you go into like this dreamlike state, and it's like, I didn't see anything that was going on. I didn't hear anything that was going on.
Right.
I went into myself and I was saying, who am I really?
Right.
What am I willing to give up?
Mm-hmm.
And what am I willing to fight for?
Right.
And at that point, I wanted to fight for my identity, who I was. So I was a mother, I was a bike racer, I was a wife, I was a coach. I was not going to let cancer take that away from me.
Right.
So 2 days after my second chemotherapy, I won the state championships. 3 days after my third chemotherapy, I captained a women's team time trial team to win a gold medal. And
Wow.
let's say 28 days. 28 days after my last chemotherapy infusion, I won the national championships.
That's amazing.
So
Wow.
I was
Absolutely.
bound and determined I was not going to let cancer take that away from me.
Absolutely.
So, but I needed somebody to talk to,
Right.
somebody who could understand. And I went online and I got on chat lines about breast cancer and all this sort of stuff. And all they wanted to talk about was gloom and doom and METs and RADs.
Sure.
And I didn't know what METs and RADs meant.
Sure.
And METs means metastasis, and RADs means radiation therapy. And I'm like, I just want to know if chemotherapy is going to affect my ability to
Right.
race.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. True.
Right.
But
Wow.
then I found an online group called Cyclists Combating Cancer,
Okay.
and they got it. And it helped me know that survivors, when we get together, it's like a party. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's not a pity party either,
Right.
because we don't want pity. We want our lives back, and we want normal back.
Right.
So, but probably the hardest thing for me to do was to tell my daughter, who was 9 years old. And so we sat down. I sat down at her eye level, and my mother came to take care of us, and my husband was there. And basically, they brought Madison in, and she could look at me with her red hair and her pigtails and her freckle face, and she looked at me, and she looked at us, and she was like, "Am I in trouble?"
Yeah. Right.
And so basically, I explained to her what cancer was. That cancer are cells in your body that don't want to play anymore. They want to go off and do their own thing. And they're not part of the team anymore. And when you lose part of that team, the whole body starts to fail. So we have to stop them.
Right.
So I explained to her what chemotherapy was and how,
That's
you
a
know,
good way to break it down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
It
is a
is.
very good way.
It is.
how you have to take the medicine that stops the fast-growing cells. And the fast-growing cells are also like the lining of your stomach and your hair. So in order to stop those cells from getting out of control, I had to stop my hair from growing and the lining of my stomach. So I might get sick and I might lose my hair.
Wow. I never knew that either. I used to wonder why the hair had to go.
Okay, so cancer cells are very fast-growing cells.
Yeah.
And so is the lining of your stomach or your alimentary canal. And so those are fast growing cells. And so your hair cells are also fast growing cells. So that's why you lose your hair and that's why you feel nauseous and sick.
Now, Mom, I don't remember you losing your hair.
I did not
Yeah.
lose my.
You didn't?
Yeah.
My drug was glucagon and 5-FU.
Oh, okay.
So what it did was it just turned my hands and my feet black. My hands was black. My feet was black.
Oh, okay.
My
Wow.
tongue was black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything it did that part to me.
Okay. So there's different types
But
of
I lost a lot
therapy.
of weight. I said it's the first time I was glad to be being 112 pounds again because I hadn't seen that. I hadn't
Yeah.
seen that in 30 years. But yeah.
Sure.
But Madison, being 9 years old,
Yeah.
so I asked her, I said, "Do you have any questions?" She looked down at her shoes and then she looked back at me and she goes, "Yeah. Can I go jump on the trampoline now?"
Oh, wow.
So we were just all relieved.
Yeah.
But we didn't realize she had to go out and process this. Just like I had to go ride my bike.
Right.
She had to go out and jump on the trampoline.
Right.
And then she came back and then she had questions. And one of her questions was, "Mom, there's this girl who's on our bus. She doesn't have any hair. She's the only one at school who gets to wear a hat. And nobody will talk to her, nobody will sit with her, and nobody will play with her. Does she have cancer? Is cancer contagious?
Wow.
They won't play with her because they think they can catch it."
Oh, man.
And so that's one of the things that we've adopted, I think, for Spokes of Hope.
Sure.
Is cancer's not contagious, but hope can be.
Right.
Spread the hope.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
Madison went and I said, you go sit next to that girl on the bus and you tell her that your mom has cancer and you tell me what she says. She went the next day and she came running home from school, bouncing into the house. "Mom, guess what? She does have cancer." So, and they were best friends. She
Oh,
had
that's
she
awesome.
had brain cancer, but
Wow.
she's still alive. She's doing fine.
That's awesome.
They went to camps together. They became
Right.
best friends. So
That's great.
So we became so basically my cancer came back in 2008.
Oh, boy.
And it was a surprise. So it was 4 years later, found that it had spread to my lymph nodes. And so at that time, Cyclists Combating Cancer had becoming a survival lifeline to me. If I had any questions about cycling, if I had any questions about chemo or how I was feeling or survivorship guilt. I don't know. I had never known about survivor guilt, which is a whole other thing.
Yeah, it is.
Wow.
They were my go-to people. They became
Sure.
family, but they were all over the world, and we just connected, over the internet. So I was trying to figure out a way that we could come together with purpose, that, we could actually, perform a service that, the magic that we have as survivors, that we could kind of pay that forward. And, it's an incredible thing. Lance Armstrong actually has the Lance Armstrong had the foundation.
Yep.
And one of the things he said is, the obligation of the cured. And there's so many of us, that feel, and I was one, that if I could just help one person,
Right.
it would make my journey worth it.
Sure.
And so, let's give, survivors the ability
Right.
to reach out to that one person that makes their journey worth it.
Yeah.
And we'll reach out to survivors to know that they're not alone.
Right.
And we've got a perspective that healthcare providers don't have.
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's true.
Can you share that
Yeah,
with
that
us?
is true.
Oh, well, there's so many things. one thing, look, and I said, so I try to reach out to people to let them know, how do you deal with someone when you find out they have cancer? Well, the first thing you automatically people do go, oh, I'm so sorry. And when they do that to me, it's like, you just closed the lid on my casket,
Yeah,
didn't you?
yeah.
And it's
Right.
like, no. So what I tell people is, you need to say, wow, that stinks. What are we going to do about it?
Right.
Because
That's a
one,
good response.
it acknowledges the tiger in the room,
Right.
Right.
and it acknowledges that it stinks.
Right.
Okay, that's all the pity.
with you.
That's it.
Right.
Yeah. And what are we going to do about it?
Right.
That means I'm with you. I'm not going to run away from you. I know it's not contagious. I haven't given up on you.
Right.
And I'm here for you.
Right.
So, I mean, there's that. I mean, so clinicians see things only from their perspective.
Right.
And they only get to see you for 15 minutes at a time. Okay. Survivors know. Dr. Kubler-Ross is an expert on grieving.
Okay.
So we go through, with any type of loss, 5 stages of grieving.
Okay.
There's anger, denial, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it doesn't necessarily go in that order.
Right.
And it doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily equal. I was big on the anger part because it wasn't supposed to happen to me. You know, and then we all cycle through the depression. And, you know, when Fred was talking about crying, I confess, you know, people were saying, you're so strong, you're so strong. But Ken saw me crying and screaming into my pillow more times than I would like to say. You know, it's there, and you need to get rid of it. It's a fact of life.
Right.
And, you know, that's, you know, it's a gift that God has given us. And I told you, you know, I said, you know, that I was angry at God. But it, you know, it wasn't until I was in recovery, probably from my surgery. So I had a double mastectomy. And it was at that point that I remembered, a couple of months before I found the lumps, that I had said a prayer. And that prayer was, Lord, I give myself to you. Please use me as your tool.
Right.
And it was at that point I realized that I went through all of that so that I could help
Be a
other
vessel.
people on the
Absolutely.
other side.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
So now we created Spokes of Hope. And Spokes of Hope is survivor generated and family members, because we're co-survivors. Because sometimes, and we reach out to family members because they're the ones who, they feel even more out of control than the patient does at times.
Right.
And because they want to do anything they can to take that away from you, take that pain away from you, and they don't know what to do.
Right.
So what we do is we speak to the survivors, we talk to the family members, the co-survivors, and say, this is what you can do. So from a woman's perspective, if they've had breast cancer, so I talked to their significant other and I said, the best support that you can give them is to love them,
Yeah.
to treat them as they're still beautiful, and that you're still together.
Absolutely.
You know, give them that, you know, because our society puts so much emphasis
Sure.
on our appearance,
Yeah.
Right.
you know, and it's like, you know, Ken said the most wonderful thing to me. He says, I didn't marry your breasts, I married you. You know?
Awesome.
So, but then he also didn't complain, you know, when I got reconstructive surgery and I got to be a bee.
Way to go, Ken.
Upgrade.
Upgrade.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Right,
but I did stop at B because, you know, I'm a cyclist. I didn't want my
Sure.
I didn't want my knees bouncing
There
on
you
my
go.
knees, you know.
There you go.
Sure. Sure.
Now I know
That
why I
is-
don't ride a bike.
That is awesome. Let's talk about you guys' books. Cindy, since you were talking,
Yeah.
let's talk about Determined. This book is Determined, called Determined. Tell us why you named it Determined, and tell us what it's about.
Oh, well, determined is basically attitude. So, and getting through life is all about attitude. And one of the things that I've realized through the things that have happened in my life, and cancer's not the only thing that has happened in my life, is the only thing in my life that I have control over is my attitude.
Absolutely.
It's the only thing I have control over.
Right.
And it's how I respond. And basically have been bound and determined all my life to get through. And so basically the book starts off in the very early 80s when I was hit head on by a car. When I was training for the 1984 Olympic trials that were to be held in Los Angeles. And so
That's what I read, and I was just like, what?
yeah.
Wow.
So basically, I'm a 90th percentile survivor. That means that I should probably be either dead, paralyzed, or mentally handicapped.
Wow.
And so I feel very blessed with the fact that I have been given
Sure.
many gifts.
Walk us through what. So you were writing,
I was writing, so
doing what you love to do, and
right, so nearly wiped off the face of the earth. I had just won. I just was on the podium at a stage race in Florida, getting ready for the Olympic trials, and I was with my father, and we were riding through Florida, and I was going through the Ocala National Forest, and I came to a T intersection, and there was a beer truck who came up to a stop sign, and I had the right of way, and the beer truck didn't want to wait for a bike to go by and get stuck behind me, so he pulled out in front of me, not paying attention to the oncoming car in the opposite direction that swerved to miss hitting that truck and hit me head on. I had nowhere to go.
wow.
So I was in a coma. I had a basilar skull fracture and a compound fracture of the right tibia and fibula. And so I was in a coma for a while. And Ken, we weren't married at the time. My parents flew Ken down. And I remember looking at him after I came back. And I looked at him and I went, I remember you. You have a brother named Mark. But I was determined that I was going to get back in racing shape, and that I was going to get that part of my life back. I'm also very involved with Special Olympics. So there are several stories in there about Special Olympics.
Sure.
So I've been the head coach for Team USA to go to World Games. In several countries for Special Olympics, in speed skating and bike racing. And, there's, when I said I'm blessed on many levels, and one of them, how many people feel that they get to try to find their true purpose.
Right.
And, there is a moment when I'm coaching the Special Olympians that I felt like all of these different resources in my life came together perfectly.
Yeah.
Being an athlete, I was actually deemed mentally retarded after my accident. And, so then I fought really hard. I was determined. And I went back to school and I was on the dean's list every time. So I was kind of like going, ha.
Awesome. Determined.
Yeah.
I mean, and that speaks like volumes for the name of this book.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like I said, when I read that story, I'm just like, what? That story ends. It should have ended a long time ago, but look at you. I mean, and then I also read there that, shortly after this accident, you found out that you had cancer.
Right.
So, boom, 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 just, wow. So, I mean, it's just phenomenal. And I'm so glad that you were able to survive this and be a vessel for people, because people need this. Like, stuff happens every day and people lose hope every day. And just knowing that somebody like this survived those kind of things and is here today to live and speak about it is amazing.
I wanted to ask, do you any of you believe that that attitude is almost as potent as the pill or as chemotherapy or anything else as far as the cure? Do you think it's even greater than what they can actually give you outside of your own belief and hope and faith?
Well, remember what I said about that stress, And so basically we have a lot of chemicals inside of us, and you know, here, so just the act of smiling, just the physical act of smiling sends neural messages to your brain to create happiness.
Yes.
Right.
I mean, so even when you're depressed,
Yeah.
just the physical act of drawing your cheeks back helps. But you know, so attitude is everything. But I personally do not believe it can replace
Right.
the science and
Right.
of medication.
Sure.
I really don't. And I mean, we've had a friend who was diagnosed with colon cancer. He was vegan. He was a vegetarian, yet got colon cancer. And he was very young, and he was a yoga person. And yet, you know, but he refused medication, and he still passed.
Wow.
You know, so, you know, we can only go so far
Right.
alone.
Right.
And, you know, so, you know, there are a lot of theories out there that people will throw at you that medical science is only trying to make money. And, you know, I work with an awful lot of doctors, and not one of them that I have worked with is only in it for the money.
Right.
I mean, nobody. I
Yep.
mean,
Right.
so, so I can't. They genuinely care. They want
Yeah.
to help you.
Yeah.
So, but one of the I'm just going to put a pitch out here for
Sure.
a moment regarding African American women and breast cancer. So right now, you know, it's much more deadly in African American women.
Sure.
And I did something a few years ago where I was going around trying to teach people how to do self-breast exams. And I was amazed at how many women said, "Oh, no, I don't touch myself." I'm like, "Are you
Wow.
kidding me?
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you kidding me?"
That's it.
And it's like, you need, so we as human beings, and I talk about, and we in Spokes of Hope go out and talk to young people. I mean, young people like middle school students, because high school students already know everything. We have to get to the middle school students.
Right. Right.
And when we go into schools and we say, look, you need to be able to know what normal feels like. And you need to report when you find anything that is unusual,
Yeah.
like testicular cancer, kills so many young men because they're embarrassed or ashamed
Right.
to tell anybody
say
that,
anything.
that something's not right.
Right.
So we need to let them know what, you know, you need to know what normal feels like. And if anything is unusual, you know, if anything doesn't feel right, you need to tell your parents. And if you don't feel comfortable telling your parents, tell a teacher or tell a doctor or tell a nurse, tell somebody.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, so with breast self-exams, to give you an idea, think of a grain of rice. A grain of rice, you could not feel, I mean, it would be very difficult in a breast exam to feel what a grain of rice lump would feel like. That's what a mammogram can find. And if a mammogram can find one, you know, smaller than a grain of rice, and all they have to do is a lumpectomy, and you don't have to lose your breast, you don't have to lose your hair. Catch it quick with a mammogram, saves your life.
Right.
But if you let it go,
And your assets.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And anything, you know, larger than that, you know, so if you come to, you know, like a pea size, you know, or a pea, you know, you may have to have, you know, a larger lump, or you might have to have a mastectomy. If you get marble size is too far.
Wow.
You know, then you're going to have a double mastectomy. You're going to have to have
Wow.
chemo. You're going to have to have
And a
radiation.
marble size.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
but you wouldn't believe how many women have left it go till it's orange size.
Wow.
So, and they're just in denial. And that's the thing. You've got the power.
Right.
Just realize and accept the fact that you're human and
Right.
we're mortal
Right.
and that we're not perfect, and we need to be aware, and we need to share, and we need to have trust and faith that, you know, it's not going to go away on its own. You can't wish it away. Believe me, if we could wish it away, there would be no more cancer.
Out
Right.
here.
Right.
I know the one thing for me,
Okay.
as related to when you was talking about mind over matter, was very important because I had to sit there for 6 hours to get the treatment. And the survivor guilt. Some of the people that was having chemo with me and stuff, they passed.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I felt really bad that they were gone, and I was still here. I was like, they, why are they gone? I just couldn't understand it. Every week there was a different person coming, and I was like, well, where's so and so? They was been moved for 2 or 3 weeks, and I was thinking, well, where did they go? And then they said we can't say anything because of HIPAA. But then one of the nurses would be saying she's in heaven, or he's in heaven, and I was thinking, wow, I really have done something. But I had to myself. That's a long road, and I had the little port under my. I still got I call it my little battle scar. I still have my little battle scar for where I had my port at, where I got my treatments. And every day I'm reminded of that, I did that, I made that, and so for me, it's passion and compassion for people. That's how I give it back. I'm
Right.
always trying to help people. And people say, you're so nice, you don't know what I've been through. It feels good to be able to tell people, you have a good day, you have a blessed day, or
Right.
how are you doing? What's your mom doing? Or what happened to this person or that person? That's what it is for me. I sometimes get by myself. I come home from work and I've talked to patients that had cancer and they said, would you please pray for me? Please, I got a lady now that said, please pray for me, because she was just, normal. She just diagnosed and she's just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. She's trying to make arrangements for what her family's going to do, what's going to happen with this and that. It is so much to it. And I keep thinking, I made it.
Right.
I made it. And so we really, really need to think when you're getting those treatments and once you're done with that treatment to help other people, to start
Right.
reaching out and trying to help other people.
Well,
Exactly.
one of the things we're doing with Spokes of Hope, so our fundraising right now is we're looking toward creating a new role. So you've heard of a patient navigator. So a patient navigator basically helps you through the medical process.
Right.
So, but there's more than just treatment to cancer survivorship. And so we're actually creating something called a survivorship navigator. And so we're looking forward to creating someone who can look at what resources are available. Basically, child care, house cleaning, transportation,
Wow.
exercise, massage, just,
Sure.
other things outside of, the typical medical that are also, stress things. So we have a very good friend right now, Terry Moriarty, who is she's fighting stage 3 ovarian cancer right now. And she's been a supporter of Spokes of Hope for such a long time. And, this year she was diagnosed and it was like out of the blue. But, she's helping us also realize, and Fred's been helping us, as they're currently in treatment, what things would help. And, Fred was saying that there's medication out there and that, that was like $1,500 a pop.
Yeah. $10,000 a year.
Wow.
And so basically they had to work and dig to find, resources that actually paid for it. And so,
awesome.
to survive, you need somebody out there. You need
Right.
an advocate. You need somebody who knows all the
Absolutely.
ropes. Out, there's the healthcare navigator, and then there's the all
Everything
other
else.
everything
Right,
else.
right.
The life navigator.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
the life after cancer navigator type of thing. So
Wow.
that's some of the things that we're looking.
So that your organization is more of a catch-all thing, which is several of the few that I've heard of, and with Mom and been through they don't focus on a lot of those different things. There's always a certain aspect that they go after, and they forget about home. The things that
children. Right.
the kids,
Yeah.
we went through that.
Yeah.
Where Mom was sick, grandparents had to jump in, Dad had to jump, everybody had to jump in, and it's just like nobody was prepared for it, but it had to, it had to happen. So it's amazing that is happening, and I hope that more organizations pick up that kind of attitude in regards to these things happening to people, because that does relieve a lot of stress when you know that you got help in other areas. Definitely.
I know.
Right.
I was just listening to my son, when he was telling me, he said, Mom, it was really rough for us, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Because I was going through so much. I was so sick
Yeah.
that, everybody was focusing on trying to get me well, and they forgot about the children.
Yeah.
You know, so like you had the opportunity to talk to your daughter. I didn't get the opportunity to talk to them because when they see me, I had tubes in my nose, I had IVs running
Yeah.
everywhere, I had machines beeping, and I had surgery, and I had staples in my stomach, you know, and I had support under here, and I had treatments, you know. So there was no opportunity to really sit down and
Right.
walk them through that process of what I went through.
That's a whole
So I felt
lot
really
for
bad about it. Yeah, for
particularly a
children, young
child
children.
Yeah.
to go through. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
You know, I'll say something about first my wife. She's a breast cancer survivor herself.
wow.
Oh my.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. She
Wow.
she had a lumpectomy, and so the day that she had that surgery done, it was at a hospital on the north side. I was there. Our son, both our son and daughter, was there, and so we were in the room or the area just as she was prepped to go into surgery. And so the doctor said, well, this may take, I don't know if it was an hour or whatever. Whoops. And so during that period of time, you know, I'm thinking about her. I'm worried.
Yeah.
And so I needed to go to the restroom. So I asked one of the employees there, they're kind of like at the registration area. And he said, yeah, you just go down the hall here and you'll see the sign. I said, okay. So I go down, go inside, go in the stall. And when I came out of the stall, there was 2 women washing their hands at the basin. I had gone into the wrong restroom.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yeah. All right.
Oh, man.
One of the women was an older lady. And she looked in the mirror. Now, if looks could kill, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? The other lady, she was probably in her 30s. She started laughing. Okay, I just, boom, went right out of there and went across the hall to the men's room.
Yeah.
And I think, I was so worried that all I saw was the latter half of the
Right.
word, women.
Right.
And that's kind of how, at that point, kind of affected me. And that's kind of a minor thing.
Yeah.
But then again, it's really not.
When your mind is
Yeah.
going and thinking
Yeah.
about other things, it's so
Right.
easy to do, and we do it every single day.
Right.
You know, in
Right.
everything.
Right.
I mean, if I got like multiple things going on, oh my goodness, like I could. My girlfriend, man, she is one of those people who are like on it, and I'm like, if I got to do 4 things at one time, I'm gonna blow something. And most women are multitaskers. You know, you guys develop that skill over time, but. I know for me, just even, I can imagine, having to deal with that, but just being regular,
Right.
having so much stuff on your mind and on your plate and having to deal with that, I forget things. So I can only imagine, what you were going through
Right.
in regards to that.
Right. One other thing I'll say about Cindy, she's been really quite a support, for Linda and I.
Awesome.
Now, to give you an example, she showed up at our home one day in a dinosaur outfit.
Oh,
All right. So I was doing exactly what you're doing right now,
Yeah.
laughing, right? And
Right.
that's all part of being positive and
Yeah.
all of that. One day I was having chemotherapy last summer, and she came on. What do you call that thing you rode
Kick
in?
bike.
A kick
Kick
bike.
bike, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a scooter, but it goes faster than a scooter.
oh
Yeah,
okay.
she rode that right into the hospital. Okay. So there I was, stuff going in my arm, and,
Yeah.
and I'm just cracking up,
Yeah.
cracking up.
And that's what's needed, right?
Yeah, it is.
needed.
Well,
It is.
well, Fred's, before his cancer came back and metastasized, he went on. We do hospital visits.
Yeah.
So we would go to infusion rooms.
Yep.
Are we out of time?
No, you're
Oh,
good.
okay.
No, you're good. That was just
Okay, so we go into hospital rooms where they're getting infusion, and we walk in as survivors. We go, "Hey, what you in for?" People are,
yeah.
it's like, I've been in that chemo chair. I've been in that
Right.
surgical suite. I know what you're going through, and
Yeah.
they just light up.
Yeah.
And we sit with them and we talk with them. There's no pity. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the thing is, we've been there.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't want to go back,
Right.
but
Right.
we want to help those, who are there know that there is light on the other side.
Absolutely.
Right,
and,
right.
and Fred's been on both sides now.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Fred, tell us about this book,
Well-
Surviving
Yeah.
Cancer, Keeping Laughter and Faith in High Gear.
Yeah. Well, so I had no intention of writing a book that has nothing to do with my profession. And so in the month leading up to having my biopsy, I would send out emails to my family and friends, just kind of updating them as to what was going on with me. Well, I kept doing it, as I was going through the entire process. So after about a month or so, Linda said, you ought to write a book. I ain't writing no book. Okay. I mean, that's
Sure.
just what I was thinking.
Right.
And then a very good friend of mine that I do some volunteer work at Cathedral High School, she said the same thing. My daughter teaches creative writing, at the university level. She said the same thing.
Uh-oh. It's calling you now.
Yeah. So, but in all of that, I said, I'm not writing a book. Now, fast forward several years, and I decided, you know what? Maybe I should write a book. So I've got this manuscript, and I called my daughter on the phone. I said, could you maybe come and, kind of help me edit this book? She said, oh, sure. And I think it was like 2 evenings, we're sitting in my office, because I got all this like in a Word document.
Yeah.
And, and we're sitting there and we're laughing, just going through some of the situations that that occurred with me as I was going through the journey. And so then I sent it off to a publisher. And it was just kind of a coincidence that one of our longtime family friends, who was a retired physician, had, I believe, 4 or 5 books published. And he said, you know what? I'm having my 80th birthday party. And it was down at the, what used to be the AUL building. I forget what the restaurant up at the top is called. Skyline Club, maybe?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
something like
it
that.
is.
Yeah.
Yep. America One building. Yep.
He said, I'm going to introduce you to the doctor that he trained at IU Med School, who decided to create a publishing company for a lot of doctors and scientists and
Nice.
educators who can't get their books published someplace else.
Wow.
Okay, because some of the publishing companies just don't think there's a market for it.
Right.
And that's a niche that he had. So I met him. He said, I want you to call my secretary, and I want you to tell her, what ailment, you're dealing with, and she'll know which editor it is at the
Sure.
publishing company,
Right.
to do. Okay, so I did that, and I got turned down twice. Okay, so after the second time I was turned down, I kind of had my feelings hurt, and I kind of like put it up on the shelf and just let it sit there for about a year or two.
Did they give you a reason why they
Yeah,
do that?
yeah. One of the things that they didn't like was I had too much bicycling. All
Oh.
right. Now imagine that. Okay.
Too much healthy.
How in the world could that happen?
Too
So,
much healthy.
so there was that. They didn't think it flowed quite right.
Okay.
There was about 5 different things. Now they didn't have to tell me that, right?
Sure.
So still, I put it up on the shelf and let it sit there for a while. Then I was talking to my oncologist, and I said, I owe him an explanation as to why I'm not getting his book published, because he wrote the preface to the book, Dr. Bill Dugan.
Oh, wow.
And so now I kind of was feeling like I'm obligated to try some more.
Sure.
And which I did, and we got the book published. So then he said, now I want you to go talk to, before it was published, he said, I want you to go talk to my ghostwriter, because he publishes scientific and medical papers.
Sure.
And, she actually, she does like the nitty gritty part, and he does the robust part,
Sure.
right? So I went and talked to her, and she said, you know what, you need a book editor. I said, well, my daughter, I mean, she
Sure.
She said,
Right.
no. You need somebody who's going to look at your manuscript and tear it apart and put it back together again. Okay.
Make it make sense.
Yeah.
To the viewer. Yeah.
So my background is financial. So a financial person deals linearly.
Right.
We do monthly reports, we do quarterly, we do,
Right.
And so I was going right down that linear path when writing the book. This happened on this day, this happened on the next day. Yeah, okay, that's what I did. And so she recommended a book editor, and we would meet at a coffee house, and she said, well, I tell you what, let me take the first chapter of your book, and let me massage it a little bit, and then I'm going to ask some questions and for you to answer, and then I'll put that in there, and then you tell me if I've missed the mark or hit the mark, and then we'll see what we do after that. Okay, we did that. She was really very good. I'm thinking, wow, she had like a jigsaw puzzle,
Wow.
and
Let the people who are good at what they do what they do.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So she said, now, we need to have some human interest. She said, tell me, when did you know that Linda was the one?
Ah.
Okay? So we talked about, answered that question. We answered some
4
other
years
questions.
old, right?
Yeah, about 4 years old. No, actually, I can't tell you the date. I can tell you where I was, and I can tell you where she was.
Mm-hmm.
We were at a meeting with an organization called Jack and Jill of America, and she came in. I'd gotten there first. She came in the room, and it's like, bam,
That's it.
yeah. I mean, because I'd liked her all along, but it wasn't until that particular day it just hit me. And so I'm talking about you, sweetie.
Peeking through the little hole.
Right. So, and all through my manuscript, she would ask me questions, and so on and so forth. And so that's what I ended up sending back to the publisher, and then they agreed, okay, we'll do a contract
Wow.
and we'll get the book published.
Yeah.
So for anybody that's writing has a manuscript and has a story to tell, and by the way, everybody's got at least one story
Absolutely.
to tell.
I agree.
Everybody.
Right.
Okay? So, most likely, your first attempt, unless your daddy or your mama owns a publishing company,
Right.
okay, you're gonna get turned down,
Yeah.
and maybe more than once. And but what I did is, I actually went to a seminar at the Indiana Historical Society. There's a publication called Writer's Digest. And by the way, it is more popular than Reader's Digest.
Really?
Yes. So I went there, and it was probably 200 people in the audience. And when the MC asked, how many of you, please stand up, those of you that have published a book, there was hardly anybody, I say it the other way around, almost everybody in that room stood up. And I'm looking around, I go, you know what? I bet I can do this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Sure.
And then the second half of that day was, there were about 4 or 5 publishing companies that were there, and they talked about what their specialty was, and contact and so on and so forth. And so that helped me kind of research what type of publication or publishing company I wanted to go after. But then again, later on, our doctor friend, gave us this recommendation.
Sure.
So, my book touches on some very specific medical matters related to prostate cancer.
Okay.
All right. It even gets into some of the machines that are used in the various aspects of my treatment.
Nice. Nice.
And it also touches on faith and prayer. I have a sister. She's a few years younger than I am. and she's a nun. She lives in a convent in Toledo, Ohio, and it's the Visitation Sisters Monastery. And those women have told me that they have perpetually keep me in their prayers every day.
Wow.
Wow.
So I got some prayer warriors out
Absolutely.
there, right? And you know, and they're not the only ones.
Right.
A good friend of mine, of ours, was getting married, and we were asked to be a part of the wedding party. Well, I had never met her mother before,
Yeah.
and so we get there, and she introduces me to her mother, and her mother tells me that you know, said, Adrian has told us about, you know, your situation,
Right.
and she said, we offered prayers at Mass for you, and I'm going like, I don't even know this woman.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
It's going
I mean,
far.
Yeah, and I've had that happen in other circumstances as well. There's laughter in the book.
Absolutely.
At the beginning of each chapter, up at the very top of that page, there's a biblical, there's a Bible verse.
Okay.
Okay, a little more of, you know, faith
Right.
in there. And one of the things my mother told me that I can remember from just as a kid, that the good Lord helps those that help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you get sick, you just can't lay there. You got to do
Faith
your
without
part.
works is dead.
Yeah, that's right.
You gotta
gotta
take
do it.
action.
You got to take action. And then I thought of the term cancer warrior, because I heard that first from Cindy. And so the way I look at what a cancer warrior is that's somebody who has the spirit of a warrior who never contemplates defeat.
Yeah.
Okay?
Nice.
We're going to beat this, and
Right.
we're going to fight, you know. At some point, none of us are going to be on this earth anyway,
Right.
right? Okay, we're not getting out of here alive,
Right.
as they say. Okay? All right? But we can have an awful lot of impact on ourselves from being positive. We can have an impact on others that we come in contact with. Shortly after I had surgery, my surgeon called me on the phone, and he said, would you be interested in being kind of a mentor, you know, for a while? You know, we're not asking you to do this for like a year or two, but for a while, and where we would refer men who are either about to have surgery or who just had surgery.
Mm-hmm.
So I got several phone calls, you know, from guys. And I remember this one guy called, and he was in his 40s. He had never been married before, but he was getting married, and he got hit with this news. And he just broke down and cried.
Right.
I mean, young man,
Yeah.
okay? And he just, I just let him cry, you know.
Sure.
And so, you know, I did more listening, you know, than talking. And
Sure.
and I kind of think that's appropriate.
Sure.
Yeah.
You talk when maybe you're asked to talk, or if you want to interject something, but you got to listen and let that person get it off their chest.
Yeah.
Right. So so that is that was the impetus, you know, for writing the book, and so I'm gonna give you a copy of the book.
Okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm gonna sign it as
Thank
well.
you. Thank you.
Well,
Yeah.
one of the things that Fred just said is that I try to instill in people, whether they've had cancer, they don't have cancer. I mean, basically, we have to realize, you know, that this is the only moment we're truly alive,
Right.
right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So we need to make this
With
the
or without
Yeah.
cancer.
yeah, with or without.
Right.
This is the only moment. I mean, what's behind us has happened. The
Right.
future may not be here. We could get hit by a truck.
Right.
This is the only moment we're truly alive. This is the moment we have to make the best possible.
Sure.
ever. I mean, you
Right.
have to, when they say live in the moment,
Right.
I mean, it's true. You've got to be there. You've got to live in the moment. So
Absolutely.
Right,
this is
right,
this is
right.
this is all we get.
That's
This garment you got,
I
the
love
spokes
that
of
thing.
hope. I don't know if the viewers can see
Those are
these,
nice.
but these are
Yeah.
These are cycling, and
Yeah.
so basically, spokes. It's the spokes of a bike wheel,
right.
and basically, we came up with this because we were cyclists combating cancer, but we are far-reaching, around the world, and so basically, mine has the different ribbons for different types of cancer, all coming together. So, we're not just one cancer. We're hopeful that, we're on the precipice, right on the edge of finding a cure. I believe
Right.
leukemia. They're looking at leukemia very strongly right now as being the first cancer that might be curable.
Right.
They're also looking at a breast cancer vaccine.
Right.
So my hope is, once we can topple that first domino, the rest are going to follow with
Right.
it.
Right.
These are cycling jerseys, and so basically we wanted to illustrate that we're not just one cancer, we're all cancers, and
Right.
we're all together.
That's
And
awesome.
the spokes of the wheel, all of us together, unity. That's what makes the world go around. But then we also parted out and made some specialty jerseys, and so we've got a blue one, we've got a pink one.
Yeah.
We're now thinking about a darker blue one for colon cancer.
Sure, and I didn't realize. I mean, up until
they
he
have
said
colors.
something to me that there was different
Yeah,
colors
colors, yep.
associated with
Yeah.
different types of cancer.
Right.
That's
I
correct.
had no idea.
Yeah.
I knew about pink.
Yeah.
That's the most.
Yeah.
Right,
Yes,
right,
that's
right,
still
right,
on.
right.
But I didn't know that there was other colors
Oh,
to
yeah.
different
Color.
for different things.
Hence the colors, for your shirts.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So the shirts that you guys got are
Yeah.
relevant to the colors schemes.
Yeah.
And he just got those done today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
I have
you.
to show. I have to show you.
Yeah. Show,
Yeah,
show,
so-
show.
Patrick. Oh,
Yeah.
and it's a nice size too.
Look
So
at that.
I've got a pink gray,
Yeah.
pink and gray.
And I've got a gray blue.
Gray blue, and yours is
It's
Gray.
navy blue,
yeah,
gray and navy blue.
Dark blue, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I was
wow.
like, man, they know one color.
That's
So
awesome.
one thing I'm just going to say about colon
Sure.
cancer right now. So Ken, my husband, who's also over there, was diagnosed just a year ago with colon cancer.
Oh wow.
And it's because where I work that I knew about a test. So basically, getting colonoscopy is not the only way that one can be diagnosed with colon cancer. And so right now, or recently, they've come out with a new test. Now, it's an expensive test
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
because it's new.
Is that covered under insurances?
Partially.
Partially.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But the thing is, this test is just about the same amount of money as it takes to get a colonoscopy. So,
Wow.
but this test, that you've seen, I'm sure you've probably seen the ads on TV for it. It's called Cologuard.
Yes.
And basically, it's a poop test.
Okay.
Yep.
And so, I don't want to shock anybody, but everybody poops. All right.
Yeah, right.
Just need to grab a little piece of it and just
Yeah.
put it on that.
Well,
little-
yeah, so basically they send you this little hat and you poop in the hat, and then
Right.
you seal it up and you send it away.
Right.
But the neat thing about it is not only do they test for blood, like they also test for the DNA of the cancer. And so, as stool goes through the intestines, it scrapes against the wall and all
Sure.
the cells are going to come with it. And so
Is that more what's the word? Is that better than getting a
no, it's not better than.
okay, it's just another
Like,
way.
is it
Right.
more
So I was gonna
accurate?
say, yeah.
Is it
Very
more
accurate.
Yeah.
Now, there's something called the FIT test. It's the FIT, the fecal, I can't remember what the
Yes,
other, it's called the FIT, the FIT test. And that's been around for a little while, and that's something where you just kind of poke it and
Right.
poke the poop and send it away.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And that just looks for blood, and that's a
Okay.
pretty good indicator.
Sure.
And, so you can do that every year. And that's a good test. But this one's more accurate. In fact, for people under the age of 65, there are no false positives. So, so basically, because I knew about this test because of where I worked, when it came time for Ken's annual exam, I'm like, you haven't had a colonoscopy you need to have this test.
Right.
You know, he had no signs. He had no symptoms. He had no family history.
Right.
None.
Right.
No symptoms. He felt great.
Right.
And so he went, he asked his doctor. Doctor said he'd never heard of the test. But he looked it up. He says, okay, you want it? I'll send it to you. He got it in the mail. He followed the directions. He
Right.
sent it off. It came back. They called us and they said it came back positive.
Wow.
So then he had to have a colonoscopy. They took a biopsy and it was in, you know, it was cancer. But
Right.
they went in, they did a surgery. They took out 8 inches of colon, sewed him back up. No sign of cancer. He's now no evidence of disease.
Awesome.
So he didn't have to have chemo. He didn't have anything. He had that surgery.
Right.
And you know, and he's doing just fine, I think. So
Yeah.
so that's
Which was a preventative measure.
right. It was a preventative measure. It was catching it early, which
Right.
is what you have to do. He was stage 2. And the thing is,
Wow.
he could have gone all the way to stage 4. There is no stage 5.
No.
Wow.
And he could have been, you know, asymptomatic.
Right.
You know? So
And that means that you can't. It's still spreading, and it's hard to stop.
that's right.
Wow.
And so stage 4 means that it has spread to other organs,
yes.
the other organs of your body. And, you know, there's no cure. There is
Wow.
no, once it goes stage 4, there is no cure.
Man.
There's just maintenance and support.
And they give you
That's it.
time.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is, you know, we're looking for time.
Right.
You know, time is everything. Like I said, now is the only moment. But the thing is,
do, right.
you know, it's like when you say, you know, they lost their battle. They did not lose a battle.
Right.
They just ran out of time waiting for
There
the
it is.
cure.
There it is. Which
So-
is why we need to. Everybody needs to be proactive in doing that, because you just don't know. And there's so many things out there. Cancer is just one of them. You know, so many different things. What do you guys recommend, again, gals, recommend that people do today to you know, do something preventative? Like what can they do that is, you know, everybody's busy, right? You know, but this is an important thing. But with people's busy schedules and what's going on, what is something that they can do that, you know,
Well, stop smoking. There
okay,
you go. Stop smoking.
stop smoking is
Wear
one.
sunscreen. I don't care what color your skin is. You
Right.
still need sunscreen.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, basically, exercise. Exercise not only it sends good hormones, reduces stress, it makes you stronger. Our bodies are designed to move.
Right.
Yeah, they are.
You know, when we sit at the computer all day, that's just stress. And your body's just going, I want to move, I want to move. You will feel better just
Yes.
moving.
Right.
I mean, I don't care what kind of movement it is. It could be dance, it could be, dance, tennis, hockey,
Sure.
soccer,
Walking.
Walking.
Yeah.
you know?
Anything being
Lots of
active.
fiber, lots of fiber in your diet.
Fiber.
Because things don't get to hang around in that colon, it comes out of there.
Right,
It
right,
helps.
right.
You definitely got to have a lot of fiber and a lot of water.
So I'm one of the. I like drinks. I'm not drink drinks. I do drink sometimes.
I won't tell your mom.
I'm talking about juice. you see, I had to.
What
See, I had
kind
to-
of drink was
you see, I
that?
had to clean that up. Not
like-
a drink. But
Yeah.
no, but like when I go to Walmart, you know, Walmart has all these different brand of juices.
Yeah.
You know, natural juices like grape juice, white grape. And I got this one drink called White Cherry something. I don't know what it was. I can tell you right now that is a drink that will have you in the bathroom. White it's called White Cherry Cranberry or something.
Welch's.
Yes.
Welch's, yeah.
I had no idea. It tasted so good, and I drank like all of it, and I was like in the bathroom. So there's stuff out there that we could drink regularly that helps with that. Like you said, mentioned the fiber, and
gotta
there's some
do
other
fiber.
things.
Certain
But
teas.
there's things out there that will have you
Yes.
like.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if I were to give you like some dietary tips, not just for cancer,
Sure.
but to lower your
health.
blood pressure, to lower your cholesterol, I think the number one thing I would say, and this is going to sound pretty weird, ground flaxseed.
Ground
I heard
flaxseed.
that, yes.
Yep,
For that
ground
too. Yes.
flaxseed. Basically, it helps remove the cholesterol from, and it's increased fiber. It keeps things moving. It has no taste. It really has very little texture if you ground it up really good. Ground flaxseed, awesome.
Ground flaxseed.
And see,
Yeah.
I've actually
Write that
really
down.
kind of turned off of flaxseed because I read that it produces estrogen.
Really?
It's a
And
phytoestrogen.
The phytoestrogen.
A
yes.
phytoestrogen. Right.
What have you
But how
read
much?
on that?
Well, you have to eat a pretty big amount
Okay.
to get to that level.
Because I saw that it was like pretty high up there, and I'm like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
god, because there's always this new. It's not really new, but then it's new to us.
Right.
Things that come out, and then it's the craze, and then I'm,
Right.
so I was a little
Well, there's
disappointed about that. So
phytoestrogen
that's
is
good.
also in soy products.
it is.
But
Yes,
the
it
thing is, you'd have to consume a pretty high amount in order to get even close to that. And so I am estrogen receptor positive. So my cancer, just like his testosterone, that's why I said we're just too sexy for our, I just got, too much estrogen or something. So basically, my doctors are done everything they can possibly can to eliminate every, possible
Sure.
source of
Right.
estrogen. So, and we've actually been, I was on Lupron, so,
Sure.
everything. But yeah, so I talked to my doctor about that and I said, what about, the phytoestrogens in soy? And she goes, well, are you drinking gallons of soy milk every day? I'm like, no. She goes, are you eating nothing but tofu? I'm like, no. I think you're going to be okay. So,
So strange how different everybody's bodies is.
It
Like,
is,
and
it is.
you try to be healthy and vegan and all these different things, and but you just don't know what in your body will trigger something and have the opposite effect.
Yeah, all the
Yeah.
chemicals that they
Yeah,
put
it's-
in to preserve them is what's really causing a lot of
Right.
issues right now.
Is it better to have a diet that is based on your blood type? I've heard that.
I've heard that, and I don't really see any solid justification on that. From what I've read, I really don't see any validation on blood
Right.
type diet. I think it's more of your lifestyle.
Right.
I mean, if in heredity,
Yes.
Sure.
so I can tell you, I have, I'm very active. I ride, I exercise, I eat a high fiber diet, yet my cholesterol creeps up there.
Right.
Well, it's because my mother has high cholesterol. So I have genetic high cholesterol.
Right. Right.
And so, but you can't look at both numbers when you look at cholesterol because you've got your
Yeah,
the
high, low.
Right. So you've got the bad cholesterol and you got the good cholesterol, and then the HDL helps escort the LDL out. And the more you exercise, the higher your HDL is.
Right.
But that's a good thing.
Right.
So,
right.
but when you put the two numbers together, it looks horrible.
Right. Right.
So,
Oh, yeah, doctors be like,
Right.
what you been doing?
Right.
man?"
Right. Wow, this has been phenomenal. Just so much amazing information, and you guys are all like heroes of mine. And my mom has always been a hero of mine.
Right.
But you guys, just these stories and understanding this, it brings more attention and more awareness to what I need to do myself. Because even growing up in the house and knowing that mom had that, some things were still not realistic for me. You know what I'm saying? And I'm one of those people that I'm not going to get serious about it until something happens. So I, and a lot of other people, a lot of men, and this is our thing, because men don't like going to the doctor, don't like going to the hospital.
No,
Right.
we don't,
Even when
right.
family go there, I'm like, oh, who's in there? Okay.
Patrick.
It's just a thing. I can't stay up here at the hospital.
Yeah.
But we got to get out of that mindset,
Right.
and we have to be more proactive in taking care of
Yeah.
ourselves, and on a daily basis. So, but this has been phenomenal. What we like to do is just do some closing remarks where you guys just to give your just let the viewers know,
Any positive?
where they can reach you. Give them something positive.
oh well. Basically, like I said, you've got to live in the moment.
Absolutely.
Just live in this moment. Be with your family. Put your phones down.
Yep.
Basically, when you look at your life at the end of the day, when you look at your life, you're going to say, I should have texted more.
Right.
I should have
Right.
looked more. I should have scrolled down. No,
Right.
nobody's going to say that. They're not going to say I should have worked. I should have worked longer hours at work.
Right.
No, you need to not only be with your family, you need to be with your family.
Right. Right.
So, look people in the eyes.
Right.
Acknowledge that they're there, that
Yeah.
they're not invisible.
Absolutely.
So, so those are things.
That's
so,
big.
Go to Spokes of Hope, SPOKESOFHOPE.org. You can contact us there. I'm on Facebook. I'm Facebook determined at Facebook. I've got Cindy CINDIHART on Facebook. Just give me a shout out.
Awesome.
And we've got Spokes of Hope on Facebook also.
That's great.
Yeah, I can be reached also on Facebook. I also have a Facebook page for my book, and those are the two places that I can be reached. I think my phone number's probably been on one of those sites.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. You got something positive for the viewers?
Oh man, let's see. I would say, as best you can, really cultivate friendships. Because in the long run, that is really what's going to help a person have a more positive outlook on life.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've tried to do throughout my life. And when I was diagnosed this last time, one of my friends who recently retired, he was like a marketing manager for, I think, half the United States for a food distribution company. And he said, Fred, well, let me back up. What I'm going through right now, as far as the strength of my quads, is I probably lost about 75% of the strength of my quads. I used to be able to leg press 500 pounds.
Wow.
Okay. I used to be able to just routinely ride 22 to 25 miles an hour. I can't, of course, those speeds I haven't been able to do for a few years, but right now, it's my quads. So, in order to get to some of my doctor appointments and some of my cancer therapies, we need to have a wheelchair at home. And because I never know for sure how far, we got to go.
Sure.
Is the walker the best thing to use, or is the wheelchair?
Right.
And so that wheelchair is rather awkward to get in the back of our van.
Sure.
Okay. So this friend of mine, Ron Jackson, said, Fred, I'm going to put together a list of our friends, and we're talking bicycle friends.
Sure.
And sometimes I refer to the group as the posse.
Okay.
Okay. So one day,
Yeah.
one of them said, talked about, well, that's Fred's posse. No, it ain't. This is the posse.
There it is.
It's not mine, it's ours.
Right.
Okay. And so he put together this list of people, that we bicycle with. And out of the 30 people that were on that list, there was only one person on that list I didn't know. It was somebody that Ron knows. And he developed that list, I'm going to say, early September. There's now, I don't know, it might be close to 40 people on there. And so how does he use this list? I let him know my medical schedule, okay? He says he loves creating spreadsheets. I said, I'm glad you do. I like spreadsheets too, but Ron's an expert at it. And so he creates a spreadsheet, and then and he puts the dates of when I have to have this doctor appointment, this treatment, so on and so forth, and then he sends out an email to all these people, and basically it's the same email every time. Here's Fred's schedule. let me know if you can, you know, fit in helping Fred and Linda on these dates.
Awesome.
People, you know, they respond like that, boom, boom, boom. To the point that one of my favorite cyclists, she goes, Fred, I don't know what's going on. Every time I say I can help, the time that I can help, it's already been filled by somebody. and I looked at the timestamp of the email, and it was like maybe a half an hour ago, and it was already filled.
Wow.
So I'm blessed, right?
That's awesome.
Very
I'm really blessed.
That's awesome.
And so, you know, in order to have friends, you got to be one.
Absolutely.
And you got to give of yourself those around you. And so it's been, in some ways, this may sound strange, but it's been fun having these friends of mine come by. They help Linda get the, you know, wheelchair in the back of the van. They go with us to treatment, help get it, you know, out and back,
Yeah.
and then they come back. Sometimes we, depending on the time of day, we might just go to breakfast together, or we might just go to lunch together. And so that wouldn't happen, you know, if you don't have a circle of friends, you know, that care about you. That
Absolutely.
this would not be the case. So I think that's my message is, you know, as much as you can, cultivate good friendships.
Absolutely.
Amen.
There it is.
All right.
Also, really quick, Cindy, you wrote those down for me. I wanted to recognize that you recently got an award
Oh,
from Cathedral.
yes. Yeah.
Bishop Chartrand
Mhm.
Ring from Cathedral, and you were the founder of the Black Alumni Council or Scholarship Program.
Let's deal with the second one first.
Sure.
I was one of several people that
Okay.
founded the organization. And it was those of us that were in the classes ranging from 1958 through 1963. And we met at the old Cathedral High School, which is now the Catholic Center at 14th and Meridian. And we met with the then president of Cathedral High School and the spiritual director of the school. And that's where we kind of formed our organization.
Okay.
And the school gave us some seed money, $5,000, you know, seed money to kind of get our organization started. And so it took a little while to kind of develop our mission. You know, what is it that we really want to do? Well, we wanted to provide some grant money to needy students, families, and we don't pick those students, okay? The school has a formality for parents that would like some financial aid. So so the parents are required to send their tax returns to, it's an agency in New Jersey that many colleges and private high schools use. And they look at the income, and then they send back to the school, here's what this family is entitled to in terms of max amount of money. And it's all based on their income. So then our requirement is that there be black students, that they have a well-rounded background as they come into school, you know, as freshmen, and they must maintain a C+ average, and they cannot be disciplinary problems.
Right.
No going to detention
Right.
because you badmouthed somebody or
Sure.
backtalked or what have you.
Right.
And we've had this grant program, let me think here, since about 2000, probably about 2001, okay? And we've raised over $100,000.
That's
Okay.
awesome. That's
in that
amazing.
period of time.
Absolutely.
Wow.
So that is kind of near and dear to my heart. We also provide some feedback and guidance to the school where it comes to issues that may come up regarding maybe black students.
Sure.
Okay. Sometimes there was one case, well, it didn't involve black students, but because they come to us from time to time,
Sure.
they called upon us to kind of sit in on a situation.
Sure.
And, give some guidance.
Absolutely.
And stuff like that. So that's that program.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So the Bishop Chartrand was the Archbishop of Indianapolis when Cathedral High School opened its doors 99 years ago.
Wow.
Okay. And so there have only been, I was only the 24th recipient of this award.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I was the
That was
first
99
In
years.
99 years.
I was the first black recipient
Wow.
of this award.
That's amazing.
That is good.
Cindy and Ken were there. Okay?
Awesome.
And it was done at it's one of the major fundraising events. It's called the Cathedral Fund, and it's a big dinner, and it's where the president of the school gives like an annual report, what the school's done, and so on and so forth.
And Linda was a mastermind of setting up a surprise.
Right.
He was surprised.
I was.
Had no idea.
Right. You all know what confession is in the Catholic Church?
Yeah.
With the little window.
Yeah. My wife and a couple other people, they need to be going to confession. All right. Anyway, I had no idea. I just thought that I was going to the school as part of this grant program. Okay. And so I said to Ken Barlow, who's Vice President of Diversity and Alumni Affairs, because he called me on the phone because he noticed I had not RSVP'd to that event. So he said to one of the other people in the group, he said, how are we going to get Fred to, come? Because he hadn't RSVP'd. Now, I'd been to the event from time to time over the years. So it wasn't new to me, but, I was, kind of in the situation I'm in now physically, and I just hadn't signed up. So one of the people at the school, Jean Smith, she said, if you tell him this has something to do with the kids, he'll be there. So that's when the non-truth started. I won't
That's why I
say,
need
It was all
confession.
about the kids.
yeah.
It was
Well,
all
yeah,
about the kids.
Right. So we get there. Well, first of all, I don't know if you all know where Cathedral High School is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're coming up Fall Creek, and we get to the stoplight at 56th Street. We got to make a right turn. Well, that was before they cleared the construction on 56th Street.
yes, Lord.
So there was, there was backup on 56th Street. And I happen to look out the window. There's our daughter and my grandson in the car. And I said to Linda, wonder where they're going. Linda said, I don't know. Okay. So they actually held up a little bit of traffic so we could get in front
Yeah.
of them. So, we go up the hill, parking lot, and I looked in the side view mirror and I said, Linda, they're coming up here too. Okay. So Ken Barlow helped get the wheelchair out of the back of the van.
Yeah.
And we go in and it's more formal than what we, because
Normal.
again, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
it's one thing, and I think, well, this is a lot more formal than normal. So they wheeled me in, and I don't know, Cindy, there had to be at least 200 people there, easily, and big round tables. And I'm looking, I'm going, wait a minute. Ron Jackson, the fellow I told you about earlier, he and his wife were sitting at the table because there
Started
was two
seeing some
tables.
familiar people.
Yes, right. My entire family was there. Cindy and Ken were there, and another couple that I bike with. They were there. I thought, well, okay, something's kind of amiss here, but I have no idea what it is. So Cindy asked me, she said, do you know why you're here? I said, you know, I don't know if I said because of the kids or what. I don't even remember how I answered you, but I'm thinking, okay, they're gonna have something on the program about the Black Alumni Council grant program.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what was in my mind, and for some reason they just kind of made it mysterious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they go through the program, they get to the end, and the chairman of the board, the trustee board for Cathedral, you know, came to the podium, and he said, well, we have one more thing, you know, we want to do, and he said, I want to draw your attention to a video. They had created this, you know, YouTube video, right, about Cathedral High School, and then all of a sudden you saw this silhouette. You know, you don't see his face, you just see the silhouette.
You can't see his ears underneath these headphones, but they were his ears.
Yeah, and I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, that
That
kind of
looks
looks
like
like me. So the narrator, when the narrator got to the point where she said, "This is the first," we're making history tonight because this is the first African American to receive this award, and then that's when you see my picture.
Nice.
They had a photograph of me in a team photo when I was a freshman on the football team.
Wow.
I'm thinking, where in the world did they get that? You know, I don't.
Yeah.
You know, and then they had another picture of me of our freshman basketball team. You know, on there, and there was a part of that program right about then. I kind of lost it. Okay.
Yeah.
It was just overwhelming.
Sure.
So then,
Wow.
the chairman of the trustee board, next thing I know, he's standing there next to me with a microphone, and I'm supposed to give remarks. You know, and it's like, you know,
Remarks.
wait a minute, you know, what am I going to say?
Yeah.
So I talked about our program,
Yeah.
okay, the grant program, and it was just really quite the thing. 3 parents who we gave grant money to in the past came over to
Nice.
say something
Wow.
to me.
That's awesome. Congratulations on that,
Yeah,
man.
man.
That's-
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That is a big deal, you
Yeah.
know, for what you did for Cathedral, and I mean, and it really shows that this is something that's necessary in a lot of the different schools. So thanks for
Right.
paving the way for
Thank you.
for those opportunities.
It was my pleasure. My pleasure.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Mom.
I just feel honored to be sitting next to these two here. I'm like, I need to write a book. You ready, son?
Yes, let's go. You
Like
definitely
this
need a book.
Yeah.
I just say, you know, live right, be right, do right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when it comes to health, you know, I was a young mom and I was a worker. I was just working to, you know, take care of things, and I wasn't taking care of me. You know, when I look back over it, you know, I wasn't resting because I was, you know, getting kids up, sending them to school, going to one job, coming home, fixing dinner, putting them to bed, going to the next job, getting back up, going back to, you know, I was probably sleeping probably for about 20 years for about maybe 3.5 to 4 hours a day is all I was doing for all those years. So about the time I got there, that was the only way that God could slow me down was to put that, you know, let that allow that to be in my life to slow me back so I can find out what was really important to me. But, you know, health is everything. Health is everything. I can remember my doctors telling me, he says, you not only have to live for yourself, but you have to live for others. And I didn't hear that. I didn't hear what he said to me 20 years ago until tonight. I heard it loud and clear for what you guys were saying here. And then also he said, you know, for health, you know, you have to keep your body cleansed and stuff, but you have to keep your mind clear. Because what you tell your mind is what it does to your body.
That's right.
And that's really important.
That's right.
That's real important. It does. It tears your body down if you don't take care of your body. And then the final thing is when you talk about, you know, as far as fiber and diet and water, the one thing that they told me to stay away from was red meats, you know, because they don't digest like all other meats does, you know, do salmon and things. I'm so sick of salmon, but you know what, but at least it helps you when you don't do it. But when I stopped doing that, I started feeling better.
I'll give you my
Because-
recipe for salmon.
Will you? Okay,
Yeah.
you have to give that to me because I'm telling you, I done
Yeah.
did everything. I done turned that salmon every way but loose. I was like, woo, I knew I got to have this at least twice a week. I say, woo, and on the day I have to have it, I'll be like, okay, Lord, let's just do this together.
Do it together. That's good.
Let's do it together so we
Right,
can eat
right,
this.
right, right.
But but it's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, son, and Patrick,
Yep.
and you, Ebony, and you guys for allowing me to be with you guys.
Thank
I feel
you
like
for coming.
I'm here with
Yeah.
celebrities. Like, how about that?
One final thing. I'd be really remiss, and I've mentioned this just real briefly, if I didn't give a shout out to my wife.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Hey, wife.
Right?
Whoop, whoop.
Come on in here, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Lindsay, come on in.
Linda.
And
Linda.
Linda, I'm sorry.
Linda.
And Ken.
And
Ken,
Ken.
come on,
Yeah.
Ken. You
Bring
guys
that
come in
husband
here.
and wife and that support system.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and
So-
they getting up like, what do they want?
One of the things is, when I said, love your spouse,
Yep.
show them that you love. One of the things Ken did for me after I was diagnosed, he built a bike. He built me a pink bike, and gave it to me. And
Wow.
that to me that said that we were in the long race together.
Absolutely.
We were going to get to the finish line together.
Yep.
That showed that he believed that I was going to make it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. There's Linda. How you doing, Linda? And
Like
Ken,
Linda.
Yeah.
the magic. This is
Yeah.
what they are, the
Right.
magic
dream
behind the
team.
scenes.
Right.
This is the dream team right here.
Yeah.
Also
yeah.
survivors
Yeah.
survivors of cancer.
Yeah.
You guys
yeah.
are looking at some
Yeah.
cancer warriors here.
Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly.
This is amazing.
But this is the woman that's keeping me alive.
Wow.
I
Okay.
see.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Good
My
job.
love,
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yep.
he's the father of our children. Right there.
Yep.
We appreciate y'all, man.
We
Thank
definitely
you.
do.
Thank you so
Definitely
much.
do.
All right.
Thank you.
Ebony.
Thank you guys because you have, I'm sure you've inspired somebody listening that's going through the battle and who is winning the battle, and someone who like myself, who's the whole time thinking, I need to call my doctor.
Yeah.
It's time for my physical. I need to call, remind myself, set a reminder, and all those things. But just thank you for helping others to have hope, and because it's contagious. Of course, I'm not dealing with cancer, but just the hope aspect is so contagious, and in any aspect of life, I think what you are sharing is just beautiful, and it fits for anything that we need to deal with and go through. So thank you.
Right. You're welcome.
Thank you for your strength and courage.
Thank you.
B. Wills.
Wow.
I know he been taking in a whole lot of this. He been so quiet over here.
I know he ain't made no noise. I'm like, I kept every once in a while I was looking out the corner of my eye like he didn't say anything.
First and foremost, I want to, of course, thank y'all for coming. Just to hear your stories, man. I'm just speechless. It really made me think, just about life and, how people feel like, including, myself, how we go through things and, we may be upset or, bothered by things that we deal with. But, there's always somebody that is going through more than you. So it makes me put things into a different perspective, as far as life and, what to appreciate and not what, just certain things that, I shouldn't harbor on as much. But it also made me think about my uncle. He passed back in 2012. He was stage 4, but he had a heart attack. But, he was, we were really, really close to the point where me and my mother stayed with her parents or, my grandparents. He was that uncle that was the, funny, he, drunk his beer and everything. He was like the clown, but, and we literally shared like the same room. The house was small, but we shared the same room. So, I was close to him. And, to find out when he had cancer and, and everything, I took that hard. I was actually with him when he was over my house and he literally like fainted. And I didn't know how to respond to it or, anything, but, he just refused treatment. But the day that I was going to go over to watch a football game with him is, I was going through, this little diet thing then where, I didn't eat red meat or chicken. So his lady at the time knew that that I wanted fish. So she went to the store to, get fish, and that's when he died. So for a while, I blamed myself because I was, I was that selfish to say, hey, can you get me some fish? But, but I realized that, I couldn't blame myself, for that. Right. But, he lived his life. He taught me, a great deal of lessons that I still use now. But, I'm big on relationships. I had a talk with Sis the other day. She was talking about, you basically, I'm probably too nice, or however she worded that. Well, however you worded it.
I just said he had a big heart.
Okay, well,
too nice.
I have a big heart. But, I just value relationships with people. And, some people take advantage of that. Others, embrace it. I've known him for over 20 years. I consider him like a brother. Like, like his
One
mother.
of my kids.
Yeah, and that's
I
mom.
call him my
Like,
son.
and what's so funny
I
is
do.
that her birthday is the same day as my mother's birthday. So
Yes.
That's crazy.
yeah, it's crazy. So again, I'll throw prayer kites, man. For y'all. I mean, I'm just glad that your support system, is,
Yeah,
it's huge.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love the fact that you guys came. So thank you.
Awesome. You guys are definitely gold standard for not only relationship, but for just surviving life. You know what I'm saying? As, I'm getting old myself, late 30s. But you guys are just resilient to me, man. Like, and give me so much inspiration. My mom is my hero. Y'all have no idea. Like, this woman here is like everything that's in me that's consistent, that's the work ethic, the resilience, the everything I got from her. And watching her go through what she went through told me that there's more to life than just giving up. So she may not. That's probably her first time hearing that. Because I'm really quiet. I really am quiet when
he
Mm-hmm.
she say
really
that.
is.
I am really
Seriously.
quiet. And I also have a big heart. And I'm there to help anybody that needs help, and that I could do in my capacity. And I got that from her. We were poor when we were kids, but I had no idea until I was like 17. Like, she made being a kid so fun to the
Yeah,
point
Patrick
where
already lived there,
we
too.
didn't realize
Yeah, I
that
was
we
there a
were
lot.
like poor kids coming up until we got older. So that just told me, like, wow, we did live kind of like, it was just, we lived in our car once. It was just a fun ride. We just thought we was going on a trip. So, stuff like that, like, you don't realize.
Yeah.
And she did a
Yeah.
great job at,
Yeah.
took us to Chuck E. Cheese all the time. Like, we had fun as kids. Our childhood was not, like, bad. But like I said, we didn't realize the environment that we were taken from. Like, she took us from Chicago, the bad areas of Chicago. And we just thought we were going for a ride, So, and all that turned into all of us being well-equipped for life.
Yeah.
So, and she's resilient. And I just want to mention some of the things that she's been a part of and some awards she got. So she's an American Heart Association ambassador. She uplifts the community. She got an Uplift the Community Recognition Award. She's currently the VP for Advisory Council at the CICOA. Supporter and volunteer for Alzheimer's Association, proud graduate of Martin University with a master's degree in community psychology, mother of 5, grandmother of 9, 29 years at professional years in healthcare. She loved working with seniors and those with disabilities. I mean, that's just like the tip of the iceberg. My mom is phenomenal. And been on TV so many times. She don't even know she's a celebrity herself. Y'all probably seen her on commercials. She should be on all kind of commercials in the city.
Going on.
And
Going off on somebody.
and she noticed her, when she came in. So, but I'm just in a room full of heroes, and these are like my brothers and my sisters right here because we just vibe so well with the gray area, and it just gives me life to come here and be with them, and to then have people like you come visit us and speak with us about your journey and your survival.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
thank you for that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. You know, like, wow. Discussions like this is why I'm so glad that we created this platform. You know, I mean, I can't say that enough,
Absolutely.
but you know, just powerful.
Absolutely. So we might call you guys to come back again next year, so be prepared for that.
Okay.
You know,
We'll put them in the seats.
Linda, that's what I was gonna
Yeah.
say. Linda seems a little shy, but we're gonna put Linda in the seat.
Oh no, she's not. No, she's not at all.
Good luck with that.
No, she's not. She said, "No, you need to show me. Look, smile now, now." She pointed and said, "Now."
But,
I was joking.
Again, just thank you guys for coming in. You guys just made our night, and I just want to say thank you to the viewers for always tuning in and sharing our live feed. We have some very faithful viewers and people who share everything that we post, and our goal is to just show the community that there's another side to media that that doesn't exist, and we want to be that face to show
Absolutely.
that there's people out here really going through life situations. The communities, there's people really fighting, and it's not so much a crime. And that's out there, but there's so many beautiful things to life that we don't expose, and we just want to be that platform to show that side of it. So thank you guys for
Very
being
good.
with us, and we will see you guys next time.
God bless.
Amen. Wow.
Welcome to the Gray Area. The Gray Area Media. We've obligated ourselves to be the voice for all communities, speaking on topics that include community, religion, education, politics, technology, sports, health, and wellness. The Gray Area Media is a platform created by longtime friends for the sole purpose of providing our communities with the ability to voice current, past, and modern day issues. The Gray Area, in its naming significance, solely speaks to the area in which people shy away from speaking because of media-based constraints or contractual-based obligations. Well, I'm here to tell you, we don't do that here. So please, stay tuned in. We're going to go live in a few minutes. Don't forget, please add us as a friend on Facebook so that you can follow our live feed. And not only that, please add us on Twitter and Instagram at The Gray Area Media. Please visit our website at www.thegrayareamedialive.com. Thank you.